very important rally here on 125th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard.
Yes, ladies and gents.
We turn around right across.
We outside.
Is the Hotel Teresa. When we pay homage this morning, as we do in our African culture and our histories and the histories of our folk who made it through the horrible transatlantic slave trade, the Lenape people's land at this moment. We want to do a moment of silence, and I mentioned the hotel because 65 years ago, Fidel Castro and Malcolm X met at that hotel.
Oh, that's right.
They met at that hotel, and it began a friendship that has continued even today between not only just the peoples of Cuba and African Americans in the United States, but that meeting represented the coming together of Africa, the Caribbean, and the entire world, because those two leaders showed the importance of what unity meant and what it meant to be struggling against neo-colonialism, colonialism, racism, and imperialism.
That's right.
So this morning, we are carrying on this struggle. And as you'll hear from the speakers who are gathered here today, we will be informing you about why this meeting here today is so important as we move towards next week, when the United States and African, Caribbean, and world leaders will come together on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week to denounce the illegal embargo, blockade against the people of Cuba, which has been going on for more than 60 plus years. So I'm not going, my name is Rosemary Mealy, and I'm representing the people this morning.
That's right.
We're going to start our program, as I mentioned, with a moment of silence, remembering our ancestors who are guiding us and demanding that we carry on this struggle. As many of you know, Cuba was the refuge for one of our freedom fighters, Puerto Rican freedom fighters from all over the world, particularly from the United States, who were fleeing the racism and the oppression of what's going on here because they were freedom fighters. One of our freedom fighters was liberated from the correctional, an all men's correctional facilities in New Jersey many years ago by allies and members of the Black Liberation Army. Her name was Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur died free in Cuba. And Cuba has paid an enormous price for that, because in all of the negotiations between the United States and Cuba, her name was always put up as a negotiating tool. And Cuba refused to use Assata as a negotiating tool so that their embargo, their people would not be suffering it today for the 60-plus-year-old blockade. So that's another reason why we owe Cuba our support and our solidarity. At this moment, I'm going to ask our sister T to come up, and we're going to pay tribute in memory to our dear sister, Assata Shakur.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is T. Iriarte Medina. I thank you for coming on this Sunday to gather with us. I am a member of the New York, New Jersey Cuban Sea Coalition. I want to usher in the revolutionary spirit of our beloved comrade, sister, and now ancestor, Assata Shakur. And I'll start doing that by laying down a libation with my comrades here from D12 in the community. I would pour out a libation and also lay the ancestral flowers. Thank you to our comrades standing in solidarity always. May Assata spirit continue to push us to help liberate our brothers and sisters transnationally and all over the world and in our own communities. And that's kind of the theme for this, my remarks. She emphasized what community meant. When she departed this earth, she departed free as a rosemary. And I want you to chant free with me. She was free when she departed this earth. Free. Free. Again, free. 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 We thank the Cuban government for protecting our dear Assata until she departed. Not only should we lift up her name, we must carry on the profound commitment to Black liberation and the struggle for all oppressed people of the world. Assata Shakur wholeheartedly emphasized the significance of collective responsibility, mutual support, and the idea that a community's freedom is tied to everyone's freedom. So I would like to leave you with one of the many beautiful offerings of wisdom that she gave us in this life. Any community seriously concerned with its own freedom has to be concerned about other people's freedom as well. Assata spoke about living in Cuba and feeling that sense of community when she was there, as she was living there. She says the person next to you is going to help you get up. She also stressed the necessity of collectivity for struggle, stating that I couldn't see how we could seriously struggle without having a strong sense of collectivity, without being responsible for each other and to each other. In that same spirit, we must stand in solidarity with our transnational communities. We stand with the people of Cuba and call for the end of the 60-year inhumane and unjust U.S. blockade. We stand with Haiti. We stand with our community in Puerto Rico. We stand with our Palestinian people. We stand with Venezuela. We stand with Latin America. We stand with the Caribbean. And we stand with Africa. As a woman of both Puerto Rican and Cuban descent, I am no stranger to the violent policies of the U.S. empire. The exploitation, the militarization imposed by this U.S. empire. In Puerto Rico, thousands of people right now are without power and without water. Coupled with the ongoing disaster capitalism, and as we know, there are some parallels between the struggles in Cuba and Puerto Rico. It always has been. Dos alas. As we know, the economic blockade on Cuba is an impediment that prevents people from receiving life-saving medical equipment, fuel to generate sustainable power, and other essential sources and resources. Next week, several countries will come together before the UN General Assembly and express their support to end the economic blockade and remove Cuba off the state sponsors of terrorism list. We all share in that purpose. And in closing, I invite you all to join me in chanting Sister Assata's powerful words. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other and support each other.
We must love each other and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
I thank you all.
Thank you, Sister T. And now from the Dominican community, we are graced with a song from Maria.
Thank you. My name is Maria Terrero. I am a cultural worker of the Dominican community and the community as a whole. I'm gonna do one song to Anaiso, who is the deity in our Afro-Caribbean culture of the sweet waters and love. Anaiso, Aile, Anaiso, Iye, Anaiso, Aile, Anaiso, Iye, Congo, con lugares, con quieren tiempo mi cielo. Aile, Anaiso, yeah, ay, Anaiso, Aile, Anaiso, yeah. Ayer estuve enferma y nadie me vino a ver. Aile, Anaiso, yeah, oh, Anaiso, Aile, Anaiso, yeah. Congo, lare, miserere, Congo, mi ciel. Aile, Anaiso, oh, Anaiso, Aile, Anaiso, I will say you buy a song from the Bomba Puerto Rican.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. My name is Ike Nahum. I'm with the New York, New Jersey, Cuba Sea Coalition. Thank you all for coming. This is a very volatile moment in world politics that we're going to see. We've been seeing play out in the United Nations over the last couple of weeks and in world politics in general. Leading up to the vote in the UN this Tuesday and Wednesday, which will again be an overwhelming show of support for Cuba and this atrocious U.S. blockade, which is causing immense dislocation and economic trouble and problems in Cuba. Let me start my remarks by embracing what is at the cutting edge of U.S. aggression in our hemisphere today and in the world, and that is by embracing the peoples of Venezuela and Colombia. As Trump and Rubio are clearly on a course of what I can only call purposeful provocation that ends in their minds in direct U.S. aggression against Venezuela, Colombia, the Caribbean zone of peace, and really all the peoples of Latin America, and is of a piece with their growing aggression against the working people, especially immigrant workers in the United States. And this is in the great traditions of U.S., what they used to call gunboat diplomacy, that has been the operative U.S. policy in the Americas ever since the War of 1898 with Spain. So we say no to that. We are prepared to struggle if the U.S. crosses the line into a more direct land-based and with combined military operations against Venezuela and Colombia. At the same time, the U.S. is campaigning, we'll see how far it gets, to try to win a few more votes for their pitiful performances year after year in the United Nations to try to get support against Cuba. There may be a couple of right-wing governments in Latin America that have come to power in the last period that they may win over, including the crisis-ridden Milei government in Argentina. But we know that the overwhelming majority will vote against the United States and in favor of the Cuban-supported resolution against the blockade. So in the spirit of my remarks and the focus on Venezuela, let's start our rally tonight. If Brother William Kamikaro is here from the Venezuelan Solidarity Movement, I think you all know William, who's going to say a few words to us to get us ready to do whatever is necessary to stop this aggression.
Okay, thank you very much, guys, for organizing this beautiful event in solidarity with Cuba, and solidarity with Venezuela, Colombia, and solidarity with the movement and resistance in South America. Basically, just a few days ago, I was reading an article on the New York Times. That was by Juan Forero. And Juan Forero was saying in the article that Donald Trump wants to regain and take over again, South America. Basically, that's what he was saying in the article. And that's true. We can see the attack that the Trump administration is having against Venezuela, not only against Venezuela, it's also against Mexico. It's also against Brazil. It's also against Colombia. And also against Cuba. And also against Nicaragua. And even it's also against Honduras. So we need to be prepared because basically this is an attack against the entire movement of liberation in the continent. This is an attack that they're trying to really contend what's going on in South America. You can see that they're very happy, for example, with Noboa in Ecuador, because Noboa is also requesting support to Netanyahu. No, because there's too many processes right now in Ecuador. Also, you can see that he's very happy with Milei. He came just a few days ago to Washington, D.C., basically humiliating the Argentinian nation in front of the entire world. So that is the kind of people that they want. They don't want people that are in resistance. And we need to be prepared to support all those countries that are fighting for their freedom. In the case of Colombia, for example, why they're attacking Colombia in so brutal way? Because Colombia decided not to support United States, USA attack against Venezuela. Because Petro said that we don't want to be used by United States to attack Venezuela. And that's the main reason that right now Petro is a target by United States. And now they are using Trinidad. Just a few days ago, the Minister of Defense was in an interview and he said, we are supporting United States because that was a request from the State Department. That was a request from Narco Rubio. Basically, this is a very, very, very serious time. This is a very serious time, and we need to be at the same level of that circumstance. We need to really fight back, and we need to be ready to be in the street to support Venezuela, to support Cuba, Nicaragua, to support Colombia, because these people that are in power, they are also attacking us here on the street. So the attack that is taking place right now in the United States and all over, leading by ICE, is the same kind of attack that they are organizing right now against the entire South America country and against the global South. And we need to be ready to fight here for our rights, but also to defend the rights of the countries of South America and also in the global South. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ike.
Thank you, William. Thank you, William. We all have to be ready. Back in the old days, we used to talk about fast response networks. We all have to be ready because every single day, Washington is stepping up its provocations against Venezuela, Colombia, and really all of Latin America. Cuba means internationalism. I think all of us know that. Whatever the cause, any just cause in the world, from Africa to Palestine to Latin America, everywhere, to Europe, you can always count on Cuba to express solidarity. And in that spirit, I'd like to call up a representative of the December 12th movement to say a few words. For many years, I guess, is that going to be Roger? All right, Roger Wareham. Many of you know Roger. So I just want to say before I give the mic to Roger that over the years, the D12 has been an embodiment of internationalism. And we're so proud that they are part of the broad Cuba Solidarity movement. It goes without saying that they would be. So let me turn it over to our dear brother, Roger Wareham, representing the December 12th movement.
Thank you. Cuba sí. Cuba sí. Cuba sí. I want to pick up where Ike left off in terms of the importance of Cuba, the importance of the vote that's coming up, and the fact that we're across the street from the Teresa Hotel where Malcolm X met with Fidel 65 years ago. The December 12th movement, soon after its beginning in 1987, went to the United Nations as part of a campaign to free political prisoners in the United States, political prisoners and prisoners of war. When we got there, we were a young organization, did not have much experience in terms of dealing with the United Nations and how is it that you make your point at the United Nations. It was the Cuban representatives who taught us how do you work in that environment. It's not the same as we're out here today with a street rally. In the United Nations, is there going to be a colon or a semicolon? Will this resolution get passed? The Cubans showed us how do we function in that. And that's just part of the contribution that Cuba has made towards the Black community. Rosemary spoke obviously of Assata and of William Morales. The sanctions against Cuba, the struggle to support the ending of the sanctions should be a window to open up to us what's happening around the world. Cuba is in the crosshairs. Cuba is the forerunner, but there are many, many other countries in the world that are under unilateral U.S. sanctions. The shirt I have on today, Zimbabwe, yesterday was October 25th. The South African Development Community designated October 25th as Anti-Sanctions Day because the United States and Britain in 2001 brought sanctions against Zimbabwe because they had the actual temerity and nerve to take their country back from those people who had colonized them and settled it and fought against them and tried to defeat them and lost in a national liberation war. The United States sanctions against Zimbabwe are still in effect 24 years later. So when we understand the fight against the sanctions against Cuba, we're talking about the same players on the other side. It's the Western countries, it's Western imperialism. They pick and choose who they're going to deal with. Most sanctions that the United States has are against African countries. Quiet as it's kept, you wouldn't even know it was happening. So we think it's important that when people hear about Cuba, that we also hear about the internationalism that Cuba represents, that they understand if the sanctions against Cuba can be defeated, they can also be defeated around the world, particularly in Africa. We know that the resistance set out by the Sahelian states, the Association of Sahelian States, is a problem for the United States. It's a problem for France. It's backing them up and saying that we are not going to agree to be part of the neo-colonialism that has been instituted, even though we've had political independence. Our economies have been tied to the Western economies. So these are the things that we need people to look at. People talked about the question of Venezuela, the attack on Venezuela. Trump is trying to provoke a response from Venezuela so then he can say, oh, there really is a war going on. And when he gets that, then he'll be able to get around that little Supreme Court decision that says, well, you can't invoke the War Powers Act because there's no war going on. Once he's able to establish that, the repercussions in this country will be felt immediately. All the things that have put a temporary stop on what he's doing, which does not even deal with all the things he's actually doing, will happen multifold. So we want people to know that. We want people to fight. And finally, the other day they were playing the tape of Mandela on Ted Koppel when Ted Koppel said, well, why would you support Cuba and Palestine? Because these are anti-democratic, whatever it was. And Mandela says, you cannot tell us who our friends are. So we have to understand that when we fight for the end of the sanctions against Cuba, we'll also have to fight and include that the struggle for the demand against the genocide in Palestine. I'll end with the way I started. Cuba sí. Cuba sí. Cuba sí. Straight ahead.
Thank you so much, Roger. And anybody, go to YouTube and look up that debate. Type in Nelson Mandela, Ted Koppel. It's a sight to see how Mandela dealt with that question. I want to read a statement from an organization, Friends of the Congo, that they sent to us that stands with Cuba. Friends of the Congo stand in solidarity with the Cuban people and demand an immediate end to the inhumane U.S. blockade. For over 60 years, this illegal policy has violated international law and cost the Cuban people $170.7 billion, resources that could have strengthened healthcare, education, and social development. The blockade affects every part of Cuban life, from hospitals unable to access dialysis machines due to U.S. sanctions, to classrooms forced to adapt to creative solutions like holding lessons in museums. The blockade affects all major sectors: education, agriculture, food production, culture, sports, tourism, etc. Yet despite these conditions, Cuba continues to embody resilience, creativity, care, and innovation. One of the best places in the world for Black women to give birth. A nation that continues to advance medicine, including a recent treatment for dementia. Children actively participate in community decision-making and the intergenerational environments that offer a strong social infrastructure. Cuba's solidarity reaches far beyond its borders. The same island that welcomed freedom fighters like Assata Shakur has sent doctors, teachers, and engineers across the global south, including Africa. This is what true South-to-South solidarity looks like. The attempt to choke Cuba is an assault not just on the Cuban people, but on all who fight for peace, self-determination, and liberation, from Congo to Sudan, Palestine, and Haiti. Cuba is Africa. Cuba is Black. Friends of the Congo stand with the Cuban Revolution and call for an end to the blockade. Viva la revolución! Viva Cuba! Thank you, friends of the Congo. Now I would like to call up our brother Ed Rodriguez from the Puerto Rican Youth Movement for Self-Determination. Where is Ed? Did we lose Ed? Oh,
Ed is on.
I'm sorry. Did I mess up your name? Yeah, you good. No worries. Sorry about it. Where you came from?
Nah, you good. No worries. Hey, everybody. My name is Edventura. I'm a part of HUBI, otherwise known as Juventud Unida por la Independencia, or the Youth United for Independence. I'm a part of the Bronx chapter. And we are a youth and student movement dedicated to educating, organizing, and mobilizing the masses towards a free and independent Puerto Rico. And I'll start this off by saying that our movement has been born from the fire of a dream that has burned for generations. A dream of sovereignty, of dignity, and ultimately a dream of a free, independent, socialist Puerto Rico. And I'm here to tell you that a large reason that this dream lives on, the large reason that we exist and we walk and fight on these same blocks that people did before us is because of the unwavering fight, influence, and support of Cuba towards our movement and our revolution. For over 100 years, Cuba has been a beacon for our cause and has supported us every step of the way, in each and every way which they could. And I'll start this off with a story about an experience I had last summer where I was stopping by labor union offices in Puerto Rico to learn more about what's going on with the workers there. And there was one particular man I spoke to where as soon as he heard independence in her name, he stopped and said, wait, independence? You are barking up the wrong tree. What, you want to be like Venezuela? Do you want to be like Cuba? And I responded with, yes. Yes, in fact, I do. Because in our communities and in the media, you know, they'll tell us that Cuba is the boogeyman, a monster to be feared. They want us to be afraid of socialism. And what it ultimately is not a fear of socialism, it's a fear of oneself. And I take this back to a quote that the great Fred Hampton once said, where I think that we've got to understand that people by the very nature are revolutionary, and we have to understand that we should not be scared of socialism. If you're scared of socialism, you are scared of yourself. You're scared of your own power. You're scared of your own capacity to care for your community and your own right to self-determination. And that is what they are truly afraid of. Because what Cuba is a shining example, living, breathing proof that that very self-determination is a testament to a resistance against the very same colonialism and imperialism that strangles Puerto Ricans today and has sought to break the spirit of Cubans for decades. And they are still here and still fighting. And for that, we thank you.
Right.
We stand on the shoulders of giants who understood this shared struggle. We remember the words of Jose Marti, who taught us that a just principle from the depths of a cave is more powerful than an army. We draw from the strength of Ramon Betances, who dreamed of a free Caribbean from imperialism through Spain or the United States. And we honor the legacy of Puerto Rican warriors like Juan Rius Rivera, who fought in Cuba's 10 Years' War because he knew that our fates were intertwined. He knew that a fight for Cuba's freedom was a fight for Puerto Rico's freedom. And in the spirit of that, I'll end this off with a quote from Fidel, where he said, "We shall never desert our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters, even if there are no relations within the United States for 100 years. And for that I say, Boricuas, Puerto Ricans united all across the diaspora here and on the island will continue to stand and walk and fight with you the way you have with us. We demand an end to all the blockades, all the sanctions that are preventing key medical care, that are preventing food, that are preventing infrastructure from being rebuilt in the name of imperialism and capitalism. Thank you so much. Que viva Puerto Rico libre. Que viva la revolución. Free the world from imperialism."
Viva Puerto Rico Libre!
Viva!
Okay, brothers and sisters, if you notice, a lot of us, we're aging these days. When can you hear the youth like this speaking? We know, we have confidence that we have nothing to worry about. Thank you so much. You know, I don't know if you know this, but if we really calculated the damage of how much this illegal, immoral blockade has caused against Cuba, we're talking about $21 trillion. $21 trillion. It's shame. shame. Yes, and it's our tax-paying money that has allowed this to happen for more than 60 plus years. Speaking of the youth, they're carrying it on. I'm going to ask Shuhini Das to come forward. She represents a group of young people who are using social media as a weapon to challenge the blockade. The group is called Carlotta's Warriors. Carlotta's Warriors. Shohini?
Hi, I'm Shohini from Carlotta's Warriors. We are a group of young people who returned from traveling to Cuba last December. We went in honor of the International Decade for the People of African Descent conference held in Havana last December. And since returning, we've been seeing how much media we've been fed and lies to be fed in the media about Cuba, about the revolution of Cuba, about the people of Cuba, about socialism, and we particularly been noticing the current attacks and disinformation about the Cuban medical brigades. Has anyone ever heard of the Cuban medical brigades? Yes?
Yeah.
So the Cuban medical brigades have been providing for over 60 plus years key health care to over 160 countries around the world, particularly in the global south, as an effort to build solidarity among the global south in African countries, Caribbean countries, Latin American countries, providing eye, vision, healthcare, life-saving surgeries, medicine, quality healthcare, quality doctors, and medical infrastructure that wouldn't be there without Cuban medical brigades. And so today, I want to invite you all to follow our Instagram page, Carlotta's Warriors for Cuba. The 4 is a number 4. Meet me after if you need to see the Instagram handle. But we've been posting and sharing the truth about the Cuban medical brigades, highlighting even some stories from people who've received health care from the Cuban medical brigades, particularly in Caribbean countries like Jamaica, Belize. And we want to continue to tell the truth of why it's important to save these Cuban medical brigades in the face of the United States currently posing sanctions on countries who are receiving this health care across the Caribbean. And to boil it down, right, when the Cuban medical brigades are attacked, this results in death, right? It results in death across the Caribbean, African countries who receive this health care. And so we believe not only is it important to defend Cuban sovereignty, the Cuban medical brigades, but also the sovereignty of these nations who choose to make these agreements with the Cuban medical brigades to provide health care for their people. Also in that name, we call to defend Cuban sovereignty and the end to U.S. blockade on Cuba and all sanctions across the world posed by the United States government. And Viva Cuba!
Viva!
Cuba.
Okay, thank you, Carlotta's Warriors. As we move on with our program, we're expecting some very other important guests who haven't arrived yet. But meanwhile, just another fact. 6 days under the blockade is equal to the funding required to import a year's worth of consumables such as cotton, gauze, syringes, needles, sutras, catheters, and IV equipment, amongst others. Just imagine that. We have someone who's available to send some medical supplies to Cuba at this moment. If you know anyone traveling to the island within the next week, we have some infant formula that is due to expire very soon. So if you know anyone traveling from New York or the New Jersey area, would you get in touch with me so that we could get that formula to the individual so that they could take it? It's probably going to weigh less than 40 pounds. Okay, so thank you. Let's cut to the chase and have a little culture. We have a brother here who came to see what's going on, and he has a very important contribution to make. James? Jaime? Paul, I'm sorry.
I'm here representing myself and my personal friends in Cuba, but some of you may know my wife, who unfortunately is not able to come here today. Her name is Elena Schwalski, or Elena Schwalski-Fitch. She was on something like the 2nd Venceremos Brigade, went back on the 50th anniversary Venceremos Brigade, and she's a stalwart, as many of you are. And unfortunately, she's not here, but her spirit is here with me, and she'll be very happy to learn all about it when I get home.
Thank you so much. Another one. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for Cuba. We shall not be moved. 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 Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. This brother has "End the Blockade of Cuba" on his accordion there, so that's great. Thank you. We have one of our featured speakers. Rosemary can introduce her, and then Cesar, get ready. You're next after this.
You know, there's always a sister or a brother in the community that we can depend on, who takes their education seriously, right? Who have reached the point of whenever we call on Sister Cordell from right here, she's available. And the other thing that's important about this New York State Senator is the fact that she was responsible for making sure that there was street name for the Black Panther Party, that another street sign was meant for Nomsa Brass. And there's so many other things that this sister has done in the Senate that we don't know about. And a couple of years ago, 25 New York State senators decided that the blockade was impacting the state of New York in many ways. There's a cancer center up in the Rockwell Cancer Center in Buffalo, New York, that's doing trials for lung cancer. And certain folks in Congress attempted to block that research. Cuba has now found a cure for Alzheimer's. Will we have access to it? No. But it's people like Sister Cordell who gets the word out to those who want to sit in the backdrop and don't want to do anything. And so, as I was saying, a couple of years ago, 25 New York State senators demanded that Biden lift the blockade against Cuba, and without any fear, her name is listed there. She called for Cuba to be removed from the state sponsors of terrorism list and to lift the blockade. And we're hoping that soon she will lead a delegation to Cuba of her colleagues so that they can see for themselves what's going on. I invite you to do that.
Thank you so much, Rosemary, and thank you to everybody that's here today and all of you who have always been here. Omawali and Raja, thank you. Thank you for holding the line, because these issues get buried and we need them to constantly be brought to our attention, and we have to keep it on the front line, make sure that that we're remembering, we're understanding all the layers, and especially during this time, you know, this blockade represents nothing more than even what's going on right here in our own country, trying to disappear Black people and other people of color, trying to minimalize people, disrespecting cultures, disrespecting other people's leadership. And it's time for this to end, and also picking fights with people you don't agree with. And that's not fair. It is not fair because you don't approve of what I do. And because I don't listen to what you say, that you get to retaliate against me. So all this is a retaliation. It's time for it to be ended. The UN, I'm sure, has voted and probably will continue to vote. Most of the world knows that it's time for the blockade to be lifted. And I agree with it. I agree with everything that we're doing. And I am looking forward to any more actions we can take, especially actions that are preventing us from getting valuable cures and valuable medicine. When you leave them out, you leave out all of those things. And it's just interesting that people don't care. Just to uplift and uphold white supremacy, we will risk all those things. We will throw all those things away that could benefit everybody. We won't breathe air if it means that we have to leave people alone. So that's what it is, and we have to recognize it for what it is. So I stand with you here today, all of you. I've seen you out here over the years, before I was elected. Now that I'm elected, hold the line. I'm with you. You have friends.
Amen. Thank you so much, State Senator Clear. It's great to have allies like this in the state Senate and hopefully in the city government in the next period as we move our struggle forward. I want to call next on our dear brother, Cesar Sanchez. Cesar is a longtime activist and leader in the Cuba Sea Coalition, and he's also a co-chair of the National Network on Cuba. And Cesar is also the person more than anybody that's responsible most of the time for the beautiful graphics that are a feature of our work in Cuba Sea. So Brother Cesar, come up and say a few words for us. He just got back from a hemispheric solidarity conference in Mexico City, and I think he's going to speak to us about that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ike. Coming some slack here. All right, because when I like to speak, I like to not just give speeches, but I love to engage everyone right here. I want everybody, brothers and sisters, get a little closer if you can. You got to show the solidarity. This is the whole purpose of this country. That's right, get closer. We got to stand unified. You know, those are the flags. Keep on waving those flags. And that's very important. We got to keep it unified. Now, I'm going to keep it nice and sweet and concise. There's nothing here that I can say that all my beloved comrades has said. Well, what we can do is to continue the fight. We got to keep on pushing the narrative. Use that cell phone, use that camera, use that media. That's what we need. There's a huge censorship that's going on, not only on Cuba, but throughout the entire world. What's happening in Venezuela, what's happening in Nicaragua, you know, and the list goes on. So get that camera, keep it posted, get involved, talk to your friends, talk to your comrades, and say, hey, listen, you know, I heard something about Cuba. For those who may not understand, who might not know the history. So, saying that, thank you all for coming. Viva Cuba!
¡Que viva Cuba!
Cuba sí!
¡Cuba sí! ¡Bloqueo no!
Cuba sí!
¡Bloqueo no!
Cuba sí!
¡Bloqueo no!
Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. So let me see if anybody else that's on our speakers list is here. Is Danny Valdez from DSA come by yet? Okay, hopefully Danny will come and can say a few words. We invite a representative from Black Alliance for Peace. Are they here? No? Okay. And lastly, representative from the Palestinian Youth Movement. Anybody come? Okay, well, before we break up, hopefully some of those comrades will come and can say a few words. Do we have any other, anybody else? Rosemary, where's my co-chair? Oh, okay. Cesar's doing interviews for a video that he's going to make about the action. So If anybody would like to get interviewed, I'm sure that would be great. So I don't have any other folks listed as speaking. I think we can maybe wait a few minutes to see if anybody shows up, and then we're pretty much done.
U.S. hands off Cuba. And the embargo now.
Jason, say something.
Well, essentially, while we're waiting for the speakers, we could spend at least 1 or 2 minutes chanting. Indeed, this is a rally. Cuba sí, bloqueo o no.
Bloqueo o no.
Make a picket line.
There we go. Cuba sí, bloqueo o no. 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 U.S. hands off Cuba. End the embargo now. 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 Brothers, sisters, whether it's right here, at your workplace, at your churches, synagogues, mosques, regardless of differences of religion, etc. The example of the Cuban people is an example for working people and farmers everywhere, particularly here in the United States. It is in our interest to defend Cuba's right to its sovereignty, to campaign for the ending of the blockade against Cuba. Cuban Americans particularly have various opinions on the Cuban government at this point. But one thing they are more, not less, but more united around these days is ending the U.S. blockade, ending the U.S. economic strangulation of their country. We have to stand united. We have to realize that an injury to one is an injury to all. More and more, we are beginning to realize this, and we will, I believe, whether it's around the issue of immigration and the role of ICE in our communities, or whether it's in regards to defending independence for Puerto Rico, the right for the Puerto Rican to decide their destiny, or whether it's this issue here, ending the blockade against Cuba. For those of you who who know of youth between 18 and 30, this might have been mentioned already, who are interested in medical school, you can go to medical school in Cuba free of charge. Contact IFCO Pastors for Peace for more information about this program. Cuba has been doing this for decades for people around the world. For U.S. residents, the program has existed since 2000. Cuba once again shows us it doesn't merely give what it has left over, but in spite of its economic difficulties, it shares what it has, not merely what it has left over. People might ask, well, how is Cuba able to even do this with all of the economic difficulties it has? Because its economy is organized differently. And it's organized differently along socialist principles because these principles working people in Cuba defend in spite of differences that they may have around one issue or more issues in Cuba itself. It is in our interest, once again, working people, farmers here in the United States, to demand the U.S. end the blockade against Cuba. There is another way. Thank you. Let us continue to chant. End the blockade against Cuba. U.S. hands off.
Thank you, Jason. I think Rosemary's making a couple of calls to see if any of our speakers are on the way, the remaining ones. So we're going to pause, and then Rosemary's going to make a few closing remarks. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this spirited rally, and we're almost finished.
am Jose Alfaro from Harlem, Palestine, for justice and liberation, peace walk. We have a walk every month. We also have a monthly dinner, bring together the community. I'm going to be very brief because I didn't know I was speaking. But what I am going to say is that it's really important that at this time in Latin America, in the Caribbean, when Cuba and Venezuela are under attack, that we have to stand up and we have to educate and talk with the community about the significance of these struggles, because these struggles are the same struggles that we're waging here in Harlem and throughout Manhattan and throughout the city and throughout this country against fascism. And this is the time that we have to come together. And we have to unite all our different struggles. And the brother before was talking about independencia para Puerto Rico. And all these different struggles have to be tied in together. We can't sit in our little corner and just be involved in this struggle or that struggle. But we have to think about how we can begin to unite these struggles. And just the other thing that I want to say is that it's really important that at this time historically, when our enemy has grown stronger with that fascist in the White House, and of course they're all right-wingers, whoever's been in the White House, but this one who's particularly fascist and right-wing, we have to join organizations, and we have to make sure that those organizations are working with one another. We have to form broad coalitions to be able to fight back and defend our communities. Whether it's in our building and ICE tries to come in, we have to defend our neighbors. Whether it's on our street, whether it's in our neighborhood. A project that some of us have going is we're going in Washington Heights, we're going to stores and talking to the workers there, many of whom are undocumented, talking to them about what their rights are, but also talking with that whole community about how we need to come together when ICE appears and the National Guard appears, because be sure that if Mandami is elected, the National Guard will be here. And this is not an endorsement for Mandami, but I am saying that the right wing is attempting to take advantage of every situation that they can in order to attack immigrants, people of color, working people. We've all got to come together, and one area to come together is defense of Cuba. It's linked to Palestine, to Venezuela, etc. So, el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Thank you.
Thank you, brother, for that timely word. I think that one of the groups is on their way. I'll let Rosemary announce that, and then after that, I think we'll break up.
I started the program lifting up a moment for our ancestors. The other thing that's so important in our movement is to always incorporate culture. Because we've learned over the years, we hear it from D12 and other movements and many of us, that culture is a weapon. Culture is a weapon. If you look here where the young people have spontaneously decided to leave a message, that's culture. That's the work of people's artists. It happens spontaneously. And we can do that even in our own communities. I don't think that there's anything that says it's illegal to chalk over the street. Mimi, Roger, the rest of us, I don't think they've put that yet into the legislature. But anyway, let's use the culture as a way of spreading the message. And I want to thank the young people who spontaneously saw a need to do this. There's a group in in Harlem, there are many groups in Harlem that are doing incredible messaging. And one of the groups actually grew out of another organization called Impact. How many of you ever heard of Impact? Well, you need to know about Impact. Look up Impact. IMPACT. Impact was actually started by a brother named Jamel Joseph. Does anyone know who Jamel Joseph was? Jamel Joseph was 14 years old, and he was arrested as a part of what we're seeing here, the dragnet with the Panther 21. He served time in prison, but he was a writer. He's still around. He's a writer, an artist, a professor of no places other than Columbia. And so what happened, he formed this group many years ago called Impact. And they do incredible teaching and they're wordsmiths, I would say, in the community. And Impact has also been so inspirational to other young people that there have been spin-offs. There's another group in Harlem called the Harlem Bomb Shelter. The Harlem Bomb Shelter. Now that might, for many of you, create some kind of images, but it's a safe space, like we know bomb shelters are safe spaces when you're at war, right? So closing out our performances and our speeches and all the great things that we've heard today, we are going to welcome in the next few minutes spoken word from members of Harlem Bomb Shelter. Being a radio host, as Mimi will know, it allows you to kind of keep people moving, and until your host arrives. So, meanwhile, what we want to do first, though, we want to thank all of you who have come out today. Thank you, because you could be doing something else on your Sunday afternoon. Thank you for coming out from Cuba. Thank you for coming out to the community. Thank you for servicing our brothers and sisters in the aging, the elderly, who are looking for food now, because we know what the orange people are doing out of Washington. The same way that they're trying to starve the Cuban people into submission. Unfortunately, the orange people are trying to starve us into submission. Submission not to organize, not to speak out, not to defend ourselves against what we know are fascist policy emanating from Washington. So we want to thank all of you organizers and the young people who are doing the work in the community. Esperanza Martel. I'm not here. Alicia? Okay, Alicia. Alicia, you want to say something? Great, we have a school teacher here who's working hard in Harlem until the Harlem Bomb Shelters come out. Alicia, Harlem Bomb Shelters here. Okay, we don't want to hold them up, Alicia. Hurry up, Alicia. This is spontaneous organizing and responses. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alicia Rivera. I teach history. I teach history in Harlem. And I have studied in Cuba. I also have many friends that live there. I was just there in the summer. And I believe that the U.S. economic blockade needs to end because the Cuban people are the ones that are suffering. If they go to the doctor, if they go to the dentist, they don't have enough supplies. Sometimes they don't have enough, they don't have water, they don't have electricity because the government has to turn off the electricity just to save it because they're not able to trade with other countries. No country in the world could exist without trading with other nations. Even the great mighty United States has to trade with other nations. So imagine a tiny island being able to survive on its own. And if you read the sign that I have here, it says, if socialism and human rights are the problem, then why is it that our government does trade and business with China and Israel? Think about it right there. If the government really cared about human rights, why is it that it's business with countries who do not care about human rights? Countries like China. There are plenty of solidarity groups that go there, and the solidarity groups will basically take you so that you can see how the Cuban people live. You can visit schools, clinics, hospitals. You might even be able to volunteer and work in the fields so that you see how they live. And you can donate medical supplies, basic stuff like toothpaste, lotion, things that are really hard for them to get, things that we take for granted. So that's all I have to say. Cuba's a tiny island. No country should be forced to not be able to trade with their neighbors. And a lot of other countries want to trade with Cuba, but they're scared because if they do, the United States will basically not support them or not trade with them. So that's the issue. And the United Nations always has many countries trying to end the U.S. economic blockade against Cuba. So it's time for the United States government to realize that. They wouldn't want other countries to come here and tell us what to do here. So my whole point is we have enough trouble here in the United States. We need to focus on our own issues here and let other countries run their countries the way they see fit. Thank you so much.
Hey, and she was trained in Cuba initially as an educator. All right, carrying on the word to young people here in New York City. Okay, many of you have heard that lawyers, as well as immigrants, our communities are under attack. The most recent organization to be under attack is the National Lawyers Guild. They're coming after everybody. So today we have with us our friend, sister, comrade from the National Lawyers Guild, who also does work around Palestine, Susan Adley, who's the president of the National Lawyers Guild, who's going to share a few words about the work that they are involved in defending our rights at this moment. Suzanne, where are you?
Thank you, Rosemary. Just to continue on the thoughts that Rosemary introduced, the National Lawyers Guild is the largest and oldest progressive bar association in the U.S. But we're not the only radical bar association. We work very closely with the National Conference of Black Lawyers and many others. We have recently been identified by Republican congressmen as someone that they're demanding the Department of Justice to investigate and to press criminal charges against in connection to the accusation of Antifa being a domestic terrorism organization. Now, we all know that they're imagining this Antifa in their heads. They label anybody who's standing up against fascism, against racism, against Zionism, against imperialism as Antifa, just like they label us terrorists, right? And so our response to the Republicans and the DOJ is, of course we're anti-fascist. We all should be anti-fascist. So if you want to come for us, that is the argument that we're going to make. Now, we actually put out a statement, but to be completely honest, we're not as worried about the attacks against the NLG as we are against the communities themselves. And so what we're really trying to do is build the capacity for not just lawyers, like to all people, legal workers, students, to stand in the streets with those who are opposing ICE and those who are challenging the police
and those who are standing up for the rights to protest, standing up for the rights of immigrants and migrants. And that's something that we will continue to do to the best of our ability. You know, we are a large organization. We're very decentralized. I have to kind of give really the props to our local chapters in Chicago and Los Angeles and Portland who've really been holding this down. And, you know, hopefully, you know, when they continue to come for us in New York City, we'll be ready here too. But, you know, the National Lawyers Guild also has a very long history of supporting the Cuba and the Cuban Revolution. They fought for the defense of the Cuban Five. They have raised the flag against the blockade for decades. A few years ago, we went to do a very close look investigation of the impact of the blockade, as we did in Venezuela. We had hearings around similar kind of economic coercive measures that have been implemented around the world. And what we can really honestly say that the blockade in itself is a slow form of genocide against the Cuban people. It is the West's imperialist attempt to stop the socialist project, whether in Cuba or in Venezuela. I was late today, very sorry, but this morning I was actually part of an international forum with other labor leaders. I'm also a member of Labor for Palestine, including Brother Chris Smalls and labor leaders from Italy and Brazil. And some of the things that we were saying on that call is the forces of fascism have consolidated around the world. And those conditions of fascism exist whether Republicans or Democrats are in power. However, we have to build a united front to confront that fascism, but that united front, along with members of the Democratic Party, has to tell the truth about imperialism and Zionism and capitalist exploitation. So we must demand that when they do go and mobilize under these large rallies like No Kings, that they raise the demand to lift the blockade on Cuba. Why haven't they done that yet? It is such a basic fundamental thing to say that Cuban children should have medicine, should have food, just like Gazan children. And so the inability for that base to raise that demand is really disheartening, especially when we see the global majority continuing to demand the blockade be lifted. I don't know if you kind of have been paying attention to the votes that have been happening in the General Assembly, but the global majority has consistently been saying that this blockade is inhumane, this blockade needs to be lifted. Now, I know that the Western powers and the person that they installed as the president of the General Assembly, the former German foreign minister, are trying to influence the General Assembly so they do not vote that way this year. But you know something? Whether the General Assembly votes as they did last year or they vote differently, we as people, until we can build an international legal mechanism that represents us and the people, we have to continue to fight within the mechanism that we have. So we need to demand that our states vote against the blockade of the General Assembly, and we need to demand that the General Assembly overrule the power of the Security Council and enforce that vote to lift the blockade immediately. And the states who claim that they support human rights for Cuba, they step this shit up. Why is it that they have to submit to U.S. imperialism? They have to de-link themselves from U.S. imperialism and show themselves to actually act to enforce the values that they pretend to have, whether it's Gaza and the genocide or Cuba and the blockade. So thank you very much. All right.
Cuba sí!
Cuba sí!
Cuba sí!
Bloqueo no! Cuba sí! Bloqueo no! Cuba sí! Bloqueo no! Cuba sí! Bloqueo no!
All right. Now, where are my Harlem young people here?
Over here.
All right, there they are. Let's welcome from Harlem, homegrown. Harlem, I want to keep saying underground, but you're actually... You're almost on the ground, but if you could come on over, that would be really great, brother. And thank you for coming out today and supporting our project. Okay. You need the,
This is absolutely amazing. Give it up for everyone here. You know, someone is probably thinking to themselves, well, why are we talking about Cuba here? Well, here's the thing. First of all, I'm the artist Anubis, the founder and executive director of Harlem Bomb Shelter, which is a poetry and literary arts organization. But the thing we have to understand is nothing is disconnected from anything, right? One of my heroes, Langston Hughes, visited Cuba twice and was in a constant partnership with a Cuban poet named Nikolai Gulian. And we have to understand that Harlem is a Harlem, but Harlem is a spirit. So we need to protect and support the Harlems of the world, and Cuba is one of the Harlems of the world. Is that right? Yeah. So I'll start with Langston, and I'll respond to him. He said, whatever happens to dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like this heavy load, or does it explode? So in response, I say, I awaken, wondering how many bodies have we buried alive? How many dreams do we perform funeral rites over? Too asthmatic to perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, withholding the breath of life because we didn't tend to our own collapsed lungs. How many seeds have we murdered? Planted, but didn't water, blocking the sun rays with shades of our own words, like I'm not good enough. I wasted too much time. I'm too old, I'm too young. I didn't do what I needed to do to go where I'm trying to go. I might as well just give up and let my dreams die. But whatever happens to a dream deferred, placed on pause and put through puberty, well, apparently our dreams differ. So what happens when your dreams differ? Self-identify different than you designed in your dream. Decides to dream bigger. What would happen if we dream bigger? Let our dream suffocate in a cocoon that feels like a sarcophagus. Could you hold your breath long enough to complete the metamorphosis? Take on the injection of life to invest in becoming a butterfly. And when you're about to sprout wings, it feels like you're about to die. We give up and sit on your butt or fly. When that rushing roar inside your vein becomes a whisper. I remember that I am a necromancer. I speak to dead bodies, speaking life where there seems there is none. I speak truth. Even buried in a cemetery, we are never alone. I speak power. The straw that broke the camel's back didn't do it on its own. I speak love. It takes less energy than hate. And only one of the two takes courage. I speak joy when I speak to my people with truth, power, love. A spark in the eye speaks back, igniting a torch that my people burn like a furnace, folding iron into steel. We be gods. Life and death in the blaze of our tongue. Our energy is neither created nor destroyed, which is to say, we were here the day before yesterday, we'll be here the day after tomorrow. There's pressure in our blood and sickle in our cells because we forge swords from sorrow. We are infinite, even when we forget who we are. When our souls are adrift like ghosts, longing after dead bodies of dreams long forgotten, we bring them back like zombies, but we still got them. And this is not the end. And one of the things that's amazing when we do things like this, we recognize that it's not just one voice. It takes one voice telling one voice, and we are multiple voices. So to extend that in this motif of truth, I'm bringing on another voice, one of my mentees and team members, Ely James.
Hi, everyone. Like he said, my name is E. Lee James. That's E like the letter, Lee like Spike, James like LeBron. And yes, I just have a poem for you guys. He spoke about power, and the only way we achieve the power that we have, rightfully so, is to speak truth to it. And I appreciate everyone for coming through with their truth. Truth is absolute, and truth is after you. Truth is absolute and truth is after you. Maybe this poem was hard to write because the timing was wrong. Maybe reflection takes longer than we're expecting. Maybe it's because of my second guessing and constant testing that my trials and tribulations have just made me way too patient. And maybe I'm not really ready for the truth. And I stumble on all my words because I'm not ready to be heard, unsure of what's my worth, how much do they deserve, and what's worse is I still give in and spread myself just way too thin. Why don't I care for what the road looks like ahead of me? Because what I see in my rear view still seems to get to me. Don't understand how a friend can treat one so badly, and I get sad when I think back because their voices ring so loudly. But now we pray for peace when we can't seem to let things go. Because truth is absolute, and truth is after you. So now we deal with pain and submit the closure, put it in our music and do it for exposure, do it for acceptance, connections, revelations, and recollections, but most importantly, we do it for unity, because we know that we're influencing generations of excellence by spreading our intelligence. It's evident what's in the dark will always come to light. I'm heaven sent, my words do hold the truth of death and life, because truth is absolute and truth is after you. And I am so tired of being after love. Forget the favors, find me a man that won't waver so we can act out like Will and Jada. Oh, like Amora and Russell making paper. Oh, yeah. All in the family like the Jacksons. And having a kids to make a band like Joe and Catherine. Yeah, yeah. She ain't no different from me, and he ain't no different from you. So we got to live out our dreams like the people on TV. We gotta stay tuned, cause there's more to see. Unbreakable through the technical difficulties. Unbreakable, we might have to take a break, but y'all know we'll be back next week singing This Love Is Unbreakable. Thank you guys. Like I said, my name is E. Lee James. That's E like the letter, Lee like Spike, James like LeBron. I DJ at an open mic every fourth Thursday, and our next one is this Thursday, right on Lenox and in between 143rd and 42nd. Yeah, pop out. It's called Harlem Bomb Shelter. You can find us on Instagram at Harlem Bomb Shelter, all spelled correctly. And yeah, check us out. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
And I want to give a shout out again to my dear brother, who really, I'm sure, foundational, was very important to you all. And we're talking about the former brother who served the prison time, right? Jamel Joseph. We need to give Jamel Joseph a shout out. And thank you so much for coming at the last minute. And thank you for letting us be on your space. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, a little different, political, connect the culture. Cuba is so foundational to the culture. And you know, when we go there, it's all about music. We hear the music, we hear the poetry, people are alive, you know? And we need to take some of that, bring it back into our movement, infuse our movement with more life, because we want to live. We want to live so that we can continue this struggle. And thank you all the young people who coming out and paving the way so that we can step back and don't have to get up in the morning and rub ourselves down and put on the lotions and stuff so that we can make it out here, walking with the canes and stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you, D12. Thank you, the young brothers from Puerto Rico. Thank you. I can't call your names because I don't have it all down here. Thank you, Ike, and thank you all of you in Cuba C. Just thank you. Thank you for coming today. Jason, great to see you. Thank you for passing out thousands and thousands of flyers when nobody else can go out. And Alicia, I'm so proud of you. You're teaching in public school with that kind of message. Girl, I'm glad you're where you are. They're defending you. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you in Cuba. If anybody wants to go to Cuba, the Venceremos Brigade is recruiting. So that's a way that you can go, and they're taking old people. If you can climb into a bunk bed, like get somebody to lift you up, you'll be welcome on that trip. They're leaving in December. So if there's anybody here from the brigade, talk to them about how you can get to Cuba. Okay? Viva Cuba Libre! Abajo el bloqueo! Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again.
We look forward to 2026. We'll be out here again for as long as it takes to end the blockade. Thank you, everybody.
So yes, ladies and gents, there you got it. That was the end of the rally for the blockade on Cuba.
Yeah, I want to catch it. Awesome.
So yes, ladies and gents, for 65 years or so, the U.S. government has conducted a blockade on Cuba. So this rally was in response to that. So in two days or so, the United Nations is going to vote on a resolution to end the blockade.
You know what? Take them off.
You good, boss. You good. Thanks. So yes, ladies and gents, we in Harlem, New York. Let me just give you a view of this area. Let's see what's happening in Harlem on a Sunday evening. That's the Adam Clayton Powell Jr. State Office building over there. Let's just walk a couple blocks up 125th Street. Let's see what's up. KFC right there. Let's walk to where the Apollo is at. Chick-fil-A across the street there. Planet Fitness. So that's the Apollo right there. That's the Apollo. Anybody else? What? Who checked that thing? This actually the Apollo, ladies and gents. Correction. Yep, this is the Apollo right here. They're doing some renovation on the Apollo. I heard it has been sold to, I believe, Disney. So that's the actual building right there. This is a very historic landmark in Harlem, so I was surprised to hear that they actually sold the building. One 125th, ladies and gents, 125th Street. That's Foot Locker right there. This is 125th and Frederick Douglass Boulevard right here. .125 and Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Let me show you guys where the Magic Johnson Theater is here in Harlem.
No, you take the notes now. We gonna play. You just go through.
That's the Magic Johnson Theaters right there. It's so this theater is located at 124th and Frederick Douglass Boulevard. New York Sport Club. Gotta go into this bank. Hey, ladies and gents, once again, thanks for stopping by as always. I'm about to end this live. Make sure you guys hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. I might give you guys a night vlog in like maybe 3 to 4 hours time. So I'm about to end the live right now. Once again, thanks.